Sure.
Yes, doctor.
Hi, thanks. So, just a big welcome to all of you for this press interaction. As you know, you may be aware, we've got for the first time a very extensive and comprehensive medical team and some medical services for our Olympians for the Paris Olympics. And as part of this team that the Indian Olympic Association, IOA, has set up, with the full support of the Sports Ministry and the Sports Authority of India, along with the TOP scheme, which is Target Olympic Podium scheme. So all of these bodies have come together, and this time we've set up this medical support team. Now, this medical support team is going to cover all aspects of medical support. So we've got injury management as one part of it. We've got the normal sports medicine part of it. As we know, athletes will also land up with coughs, colds, fevers, infections, tummy pains, and all of that. So we've got physicians who are going to be able to take care of these aspects. We've got sports nutritionists who are going to help with the nutritional aspect of sports. We've got mental conditioning coaches, because we know that in today's day and age, mental conditioning is so important for sports performance. And we've also got masseuse, so sports massage, and a full recovery room. So this is the first time that we have a full recovery room and a preparation and rehabilitation room. And this is primarily to make sure that in the past, what was happening was every Olympics has a polyclinic, and that polyclinic has some services like physiotherapy and recovery services. And sometimes, you know, with 10,000 athletes being there in the village, it's difficult to get slots, and it's difficult to get your athletes getting the ice baths and game readies and all the physiotherapy services. So this time we've got our own India-specific recovery room, which will have everything right from the best available services which are there, so that our Indian athletes then don't waste time. This will be open 24 hours for them. And so they'll have full access to all of the recovery means in that. And then finally, we've also got a sleep therapist on board, because over the years, one of the biggest concerns for most of our athletes has been that, you know, sleep, which is so important for rest and recovery, is inadequate. You go to new surroundings, time zones are different, the pressures and the anxiety is there. It's a different surrounding. So athletes don't land up with adequate sleep. They don't land up with adequate sleep. So then they don't get enough rest. And that's a major concern for their performance on the following day. So we've got a sleep therapist on board who's going to be addressing all of these concerns. We've already started off processes since about a month and a half, where many of these athletes are being met and their concerns are being addressed. We've started off sleep therapy sessions, and we're also going to have some sleep pods for helping our athletes from the sleep aspect. So as you can see, we are covering all the bases to the best of our abilities, right from injury management to medical, nutrition, mental conditioning, and sleep. I'd be happy to take any of your questions that you may have on the medical aspects for Team India at Olympics 24.
Thank you very much for that, Doctor. There's already a question in the chat box. I'll just read it out to you. It comes to you from Soumitra Bose, who is representing Olympics.com and the Herald Group in Goa. He asks, many top athletes have their own personal physios and psychologists. How will the IOA sports science team coordinate with them and have a planned interaction with the personal physios for better coordination?
Absolutely. I think that's it's a very important question. So we know that mental conditioning is not something that you just develop 2 months prior to the Olympics. Sometimes you are very closely associated with your own mental conditioning coach that you've had for years. Now, we are encouraging all of our athletes who already have someone who's taking care of their mental conditioning to continue with their own mental conditioning coach. You don't want to, at the last minute, have different processes coming in. So for all the athletes who are comfortable with their own mental conditioning coaches, they are going to be continuing with those mental conditioning coaches. If those mental conditioning coaches are going to be there, then all the better. But in case they're not going to be there, then our mental conditioning coaches have already coordinated with them and will be helping out those athletes who have mental conditioning coaches but will not be there present with them during the Olympics. Now, there are some athletes who don't have mental conditioning coaches and who've opted to utilize the services of the IOA appointed mental conditioning coaches. And there are some who've said, look, we don't want mental conditioning. We are our own mental conditioning coaches, and we don't want to bring in something new suddenly 2 months prior to the Olympics, and we respect that completely. So if some of the athletes have opted that we don't want any mental conditioning there, but in case we need the need out there when we are there, if say we don't win and things don't go right, and we would like some support services, of course, we'll have the support services for them there too.
Doctor, there's another question on chat. This comes to you from Zafar Ali Khan in Calcutta. He wants to know if we have, if the IOA medical team has interacted with the athletes already and what kind of shape they are in. Maybe you can just share the interaction the sports science team already has had with them.
Yes. So ever since the sports science team was announced, the first thing that we've gotten is start knowing your athletes. Now, some of us have been dealing with many of these athletes in the past, so not just one Olympics, but many Olympics. So that's fine. But some of us, as part of the team, have not been dealing with these particular athletes. So we'd like to know all of the athletes well. Now, this is very important in 3 different aspects. One is sports medicine, one is sports nutrition, and one is mental conditioning. You can't start this last minute. So as soon as the team's been announced, we've started contacting all of the national sports federations and going across to the different camps that are there. So the nutritionist, the mental conditioning coach, the physiotherapist, the sports medicine specialist. So we've been going to the different camps. We've been going to the different sorts of tournaments and championships that are going on so that we have a better access. Knowing our athletes better, knowing their condition better is so important, and you would like to do that as soon as possible. So yes, that process started off the day that the team was announced.
Thank you, Doc. There's a question that comes to you from Ritvik Mehta of the Hindustan Times.
Thank you, sir. Hi, Doctor. Just wanted to sort of understand that there are reports of high temperatures around the games in Paris. And, you know, with air conditioning sort of there or not there inside the village, some contingents are planning their own portable ACs. Just wanted to know if India has such any specific plans from their end, and how would that sort of impact the whole recovery aspect of things?
I think that's been a global concern. And when this concern was voiced to the Paris Olympic organizers, I think they laid down their sort of rationale and they laid down their plans, which, to be quite honest, are scientifically really good. So yes, there's going to be no air conditioning per se supplied by the organizers in the village. And their main issue is that we want this to be a green Olympics. And if we want this to be a green Olympics, then we don't want air conditioning to be there, because that's not environmentally friendly. We do know that if you see Paris as a whole, I suspect not more than 5 or 10% of homes in Paris have air conditioning. Air conditioning is not something that Parisians normally use. So that's their rationale behind it. Now, many contingents felt that that's not the way our athletes are used to. Our athletes are used to staying in temperature-controlled environments, and so we'd like that to be there. Now, what have they done? They actually have a geothermal sort of temperature control system where there will be a temperature within the village of at least 5 to 7 degrees less than the ambient temperature. And if we look at the expected temperature there, the expected temperature there is supposed to be between 18 degrees centigrade to 26 degrees centigrade. It will be, of course, be a little lower during the night. And if this, ambient temperature is maybe 5 or 6 degrees less than the environment, I think it's going to be quite okay. But just in case, there is a heat wave, and we know that last year in Europe, at around the same time, there was a heat wave and temperatures did go up to 36 and 38, then there might be a concern. Now, of course, rooms will have fans, and I think that a lot of the athletes we've spoken to, surprisingly, didn't have too much of a concern. I thought, we must find out from our athletes, and we spoke to many athletes in the Indian contingent. And to our surprise, actually, not many of the athletes had any significant concerns regarding temperature. They felt that, look, we're used to it. We're not all the time in air conditioning ourselves. And so they seemed fine about it. I do know that many contingents, including ours, have explored the options of having air conditioning and having other air controlled and temperature control devices there. I'm not too sure whether our contingent will have air conditioning at the end of the day, but I don't think that that would be too much of concern. Now, we also have a sleep therapist there for exactly that reason, that there are other means to ensure that our athletes get adequate rest and sleep. Temperature is one of them, of course, but there are other means, and that's what the sleep therapist is working on.
Thank you, Doc. There's
Thank
a question on the chat window from Anuradha of the Sports Authority of India. She's going to be there as a journalist. She's asking this question: can you give us a bit more insight into the sleep pod that you just mentioned? How does it help an athlete during a very short time to adjust to the sleep cycle?
Yeah, so this is something that's relatively new to sports science and sports recovery, and we've seen that many of the contingents abroad have started using sleep pods for their athletes. And our sleep therapist, Dr. Monica Sharma, felt that having a few sleep pods available to our athletes who do have significant problems with sleep will help. Now, what's a sleep pod? A sleep pod is basically like a small room or a small chamber, and that chamber then takes care of all the requirements for sleep. So what do we require for sleep? We require a dark environment. So our brain recognizes darkness and night as a better environment for sleep as against light. So this environment would be completely dark and light would be shut out once you close the pod. You require an environment that doesn't have noise. So this would be completely noise-free, so it'd be completely silent. And you require some amount of temperature control. So if we do find that an athlete is used to sleeping at 18 degrees centigrade or 16 degrees centigrade, we've had none of our athletes who reported that. But just in case someone says, no, I do want to be at 18 degrees centigrade and that's not possible in the room, we do have sleep pods available to us. And this will be available both in the Olympic Village, the main village, and we've also got one sleep pod which is with the shooters, because that's a completely separate, far away, accommodation and village. So we will have one there too that will help our athletes. So I think basically coming into an environment that takes care of all of these aspects that are conducive to sleep. Now, these sleep pods also are useful when someone requires some immediate rest. I think all of us know that if you've had an early morning and you are expected to be competing in the morning and competing in the evening, sometimes getting a little bit of rest in the afternoon, what we call as a cat nap or a short nap, helps us so much in rejuvenation and helps us so much in getting ready for our next sort of assignment. And so these sleep pods will also be useful for athletes who've got something, say in the morning, something in the evening. They do want to rest in the afternoon. They do want to get a 1 hour quick, complete sort of rest and recovery process. Then this would help in that aspect also. So this is the first time we actually be using these sleep pods in a major competition. And it'll be also a learning process to see how useful they are. But from any prior experience that other contingents that have had, I think that this will help tremendously in the recovery process.
Thank you very much, Doc. Sydney Kiran of Deccan Herald. Sydney, we can't hear you. If you're asking your question, unmute yourself, please.
Yeah. Hello, good afternoon, doctor. Can you hear me?
Yes, Sydney, go ahead.
Yeah. Doctor, you were just talking about sleep pod, how it enhances sleep. Now, but for many athletes, especially say for some of us Indians, where the Olympic medals are very difficult to come by, and especially when they're going to compete in a medal round the next day, it's quite common for anxiety to grip. It's happened even for very elite athletes where they say they struggle to sleep. So will these sleep pods be able to help that as well? And even the sleep therapist that you're talking about, Dr. Monica Sharma, will she be able to handle even that part, the anxiety part? How do you go about dealing with that?
Yeah, so I think the sleep pod, is not a miracle device which is going to take away someone's anxiety. I think that all of us recognize that. So anxiety is part and parcel of life. It's part and parcel of any struggle. It's part and parcel of any major sporting competition. That's part of it. If our athletes have reached this level that they have, they're the best of the best. They're there because they've dealt with anxiety in the past. They've managed to keep that anxiety at bay. They've managed to address this well enough. But the anxiety part of that is really managed well by our mental conditioning coaches who work with our athletes and who make sure that, yes, everyone has anxiety, and it's impossible that you will not have anxiety there. But how do you manage that, and how do you ensure that your anxiety doesn't come in the way of your performance? How do you ensure that when you are throwing your javelin, you are managing to keep your anxiety as not something that's going to come in the way of your performance? Or when you're playing a sport, how do you make sure that your anxiety is at the levels that are optimal? So I think that's going to be managed by our mental conditioning coaches. I think the pod is going to basically create an environment that's conducive to sleep. And the three aspects of it are temperature, noise, and light. And I think that's where the pod is really going to be useful, because sometimes, in the Olympic Village itself, we know that it's being held in the European summer. You're going to have sunrise very early in the morning. You're going to have sunset very late in the evening. As Indians, you're not used to having a bright, 6 a.m., everything is really, really bright, and 10:30 at night, it's still very bright. So, that of course disturbs our diurnal cycle. It of course disturbs our sleep cycle. And so that is going to be a challenge. And so making sure that the environment is appropriate to what we are used to is going to ensure that then we get the best possible sleep.
Thank you, Doc. A question from Kashinath Bhattacharya, who represent Dainik Pranta Jyoti from Bengal. He wants to know if you've got any updates on Neeraj Chopra and his injury.
All of the athletes who are going in for the Olympics are fit right now. So I think most athletes will have some minor niggles here and there. To be quite honest, I'm not going to be discussing any specific injuries to any athletes that they've had in the past. But all of them who are there because they're going to be capable and they're going to be fit enough to perform.
Thank you, Doc. Sanjeev Kumar of Navbharat Times. संजीव, आप अपने आप को अनम्यूट करके बोलिएगा.
संजीव, मैं आपकी आवाज नहीं
Kalyani, can you go ahead and ask your question, please, while Sanjeev gets his technology sorted? Kalyani,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hello, sir. First of all the very best for the Olympics. And the question is about nutrition. And I just want to understand that when athletes are currently practicing at all over the place, they're not together. And once they'll go to Paris, they will be together as a Indian contingent. So I just want to understand how the nutrition intake is being tracked right now, and what are kind of the changes will be there once the contingent is together.
So a lot of our athletes are already on nutrition. They're working with a sports nutritionist in the past. In fact, our two sports nutritionists, Dr. Aradhana Sharma and Miss Mihira Khopkar, both of them are sports nutritionists, and each is actually dealing with quite a few of the qualified athletes. So both of them have many athletes who are already part of the contingent. Now, there are some athletes who have a different sports nutritionist, and we've recommended that you continue with your own sports nutritionist. But since I think sports nutritionists themselves are quite a closed group and they know each other well, they've interacted with each other's sports nutritionists, and so these two sports nutritionists are very well aware of the nutritional needs of each and every one of the qualified athletes. Now, number two, we already know what each and every day's menu is going to be in the Olympic Village, and we've known that now since the last 2 months. So we know day to day what is going to be available from food point of view. Now, in what is available food point of view, there are many different options. And what's going to be best for that particular athlete, based on that particular athlete's prior experiences, needs, protein intake, other aspects. There's so many aspects to that. So all of that has been worked out, where for each individual athlete, on a day-to-day basis, what they're going to eat and what they're not going to eat is already worked out. Now, in the past, there have been some challenges. Sometimes athletes go abroad. It's Europe. The issue is, I like my dal, I like my roti. This is not there, that is not there. So we've tried to work out so that each and every one is comfortable, because food is so important. Nutrition is so important, not just for sporting performance, not just for energy and power and all the rest that comes with it, but also mental satisfaction. You feel that you're eating good food. It's something that you're used to. So some athletes, in fact, what our nutritionists have already started doing is that they've told the nutritionists and the chefs who are there at the camps that, look, this is available. Why don't you start getting them used to this new thing also, which is there, which is very similar to what their needs and demands are. So that process is already on. And some athletes are very happy to have these newer sort of things that they've not had in the past.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, sir.
Sanjeev, अगर आप unmute करके सवाल.
Good afternoon, doctor. Good afternoon, everyone. So my question is what is the size of the medical team of Indian contingent, and would you be utilizing this opportunity to conduct any research on any topic like physical or mental aspect of Indian athletes?
Yeah, that's a fabulous, I think that's a lot of insight and fabulous question. So we have 13 members in our entire IOA appointed and sports ministry supported medical contingent. Now, these 13 members include, I'm the chief medical officer. Besides me, we've got Dr. Twisha Parikh and Brigadier Bibu Naik, and these are our sports medicine and sports physicians who are there. In the recovery room, we've got Christopher Pedra, we've got Ronak Kothari, and we've got Sumansh Sivalanka, and these are our physiotherapists who will be taking care of the recovery room. We also have 2 sports masseuses who will be taking care of the male and female sports massage. The 2 nutritionists I've already mentioned, Aradhna Sharma and Mihira Khopkar. So they are going to take care of all the nutritional needs at all the different venues and villages. And we've got the mental conditioning coaches. So that's Dr. Samir Parikh and Dr. Divya Jain. They'll be taking care of all the mental conditioning aspects. And finally, as I mentioned to you, Dr. Monica Sharma is our sleep therapist, and she's going to take care of all the sleep optimization. So there are 13 of us who are going to help with the whole medical part of it. Now, what you mentioned is very, very important, that in any sort of big competition and tournament like this, it's always worthwhile to do a little bit of surveillance, a little bit of audit. So we will be having an injury surveillance system going on to try and assess what are the injuries that took place, why did they take place, was some of them preventable, and can we in the future make sure that they don't take place? We're also going to have a surveillance going on the mental conditioning aspects. Were there any severe breakdowns? Were there things that we could have anticipated and prevented? In the future, do we need to make any changes in the team or in our processes? Is there something that we should be adding? So all of this needs to be audited, and we can't audit it unless we actually have a surveillance going on and we have our data acquisition going on. So we will be having our data and our surveillance going on all the time for injuries, for all the medical problems, and for all the mental health and conditioning problems.
Doctor, last couple of questions. This one comes to you from Soumitra Bose. We want to know, as a senior doctor who has seen so many high performance athletes, is fixing bones and muscles tougher, or is fixing the mind tougher? Are these two interrelated?
I think it's totally interrelated. It's totally interrelated because when someone lands up with an injury, we have to recognize that for a high performance athlete, for a normal person, say someone like a normal person like you or me lands up with an injury, you're walking on the road, your leg goes into a ditch and you land up unfortunately with a fracture. You of course will go to the doctor and the doctor is going to fix the fracture. But during that period of time, you have lost out on a few days or weeks of your life because you can't go to work and you can't interact with your family the same way that you would like to. Now imagine it's a high performance athlete who lands up with an injury. For him, it's a question of his career. It's a question of whether he can get back, how quickly can he get back, and when he gets back, will his position be taken away by someone else in the team? Is he going to get those same opportunities again? There's so many questions that come in. Of course, there's the physical aspect, and the physical aspect can always be cured, but the mental aspect is always a challenge. And so that process needs to start off from day one. And typically with most of our high performance athletes who do land up with injuries, we have that going on concurrently. We have, fixing the body, fixing the structures going on concurrently with fixing the mind, support, and making sure that, depression doesn't come in. And at the end of the day, that episode that happened, that hurdle is crossed both physically and mentally.
Thank you, Doc. Shivani Naik, of the Indian Express, please.
Hi, Doctor. A couple of questions. One is a follow-up to the earlier one on the geo-controlled temperature. Are we sure that there are going to be sort of fans in the games village? Because I think Indians are sort of used to that. And in case that is not there, will that be a problem?
No, there will
the
be
fans.
Yeah, they're going to be fans. They're going to be fans that are going to be available in the village, and the fans are going to be available to all of the athletes. So fans is not a problem. And we've been exploring other sorts of, in the past, we were exploring other means also. In today's day and age, we've got these cooled mattresses and we've got these cooled pillows, and we did do a few trials, but not everyone is comfortable with them. And so we feel that just now the way it is probably optimum. The temperature is not, fortunately, a major concern with most of our athletes, and whatever their requests have been, we've managed to take care of it. We are still exploring whether, in case there's suddenly a heat wave 2 weeks down the line, can we make sudden emergency arrangements for air conditioning? I know that our ministry and our IOA has certain crisis management options well thought of. Hopefully the need will not arise.
Right. And second question is about, beyond your 13-member team, will every sport sort of have their own physios and
Absolutely.
They would, right?
A lot of sports will have their own physiotherapists who are going to be available at the venue for the physiotherapy part of it. So many athletes have physiotherapists that have worked with them and have worked with them for many, many years, and they're comfortable with those physiotherapists. And so a lot of the federations will have their own physiotherapists. So the hockey team will have its own physiotherapist managing its hockey players at the venue. And a lot of the wrestlers will have their own physiotherapists who will be managing the wrestlers at their venue. The badminton team will have its own physiotherapist there at the venue. So yes, many of the athletes will have their own physiotherapists who will be there at the venue. But we do, as part of our team, have 3 physiotherapists who will be part of the medical team who are going to take care of the recovery room. The recovery room is going to be in the Olympic Village itself. And so when the athletes come in for the recovery processes or they come in for preparation processes, this recovery room is for Team India. So they will come in with their own physiotherapists. But if the physiotherapist requires any support of our team members, then of course our team members are there to help them. Sometimes when certain teams will come in, so say the hockey team comes in and there are going to be 7 or 8 of them who require it, their physiotherapists will require some assistance. And so we have our 3 physiotherapists who will then be able to help them out. One of our team members is a physiotherapist who comes in from the Badminton Association of India. So in case he requires to be at the venue, then we can also ensure that some of our physiotherapists go at the venue if any additional help is required. So we just wanted to make sure that from the medical point of view, none of our athletes face any problems. I think what we as a country have noticed is that as the Asian Games is concerned and as the Commonwealth Games is concerned, India is a super sport. I mean, is a superpower. So India is a superpower in the Asian Games, it's a superpower in the Commonwealth Games. But as soon as the Olympics comes in, then we're not a superpower. And of course, we're aspiring to be a superpower. Now, if we have to become a superpower at the Olympic Games and at the world level, then we have to ensure that our medical services, our sports science, and all of the backup that we can give to our athletes is there. At this level, it's a question of milliseconds. It's a question of a few millimeters. It's a question of touch and go. And everything that we can do is going to help them in that process. A little better rest, a little better sleep, a little better preparatory processes, recovery room. So, understanding that and auditing all the previous Olympics, and after speaking to many, many athletes over the years, the IOA has taken this initiative with the support of the Sports Ministry, with the support of Sports Authority of India and the TOP scheme, to ensure that at least our medical services and our support services should be absolutely top-notch. This is what we can do for our athletes, and we don't want any sort of stone unturned as far as this aspect is concerned. And therefore, this is the first Olympics where we're going to have all of this support in, and hopefully this is going to help them to that maximum and bring them from that little bit of extra push that they require. We should be able to give them.
Thank you very much, Doc. We have less than a couple of minutes left. May I ask Ridwik to ask his last question for the day, please? And keep it short so that Doc can answer it and I can thank him at the end of it all.
Yes,
And
thank you.
Raj, if we do require more time and we do require to complete many more questions, I'd be happy to spend that time. That's okay.
We'll take this one, Doc, as the last question. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, Doctor, just a quick one on how would these facilities and expert services be made available to venues that are farther away, for instance, shooting and sailing, just on that.
Yeah. So, we've been in touch with the entire shooting contingent. We've got a very large shooting contingent, and the shooting contingent is quite far away from the shooting village. And to be quite honest, the shooting contingent already in the past has had its mental conditioning coaches, its nutritionist, its doctor on board, and they've had a very tight unit. And right from the beginning, they have told us that, look, we would not like anyone there. We are happy the way we are. And we just require certain support services in case someone lands up with an injury. Shooting typically doesn't land up with traumatic injuries, but just in case someone does, then we'd like these support services in those kind of eventuality situations. So for the shooting village, we've made provisions of a sleeping pod there. We will have our nutritionist go there and ensure that all of the nutritional plans are okay. And our shooting contingent will be in touch with us at the main village. If anything's required from our side, then of course we're going to be going there and taking care of it. The shooting village itself has support services from injury management for anything which requires immediate sort of care, but they'll be well taken care of. But since it's a self, it's like an it's like a contingent that's taken care of itself completely, has all of its team members there, and they would not like anyone right now to interfere with their processes, which is very, very understandable. They're going to be a nice unit there, and we will support them with whatever they require.
Thank you very much, Doc, and thanks to my colleagues. We just kind of made it in the nick of time. This is a 40-minute interaction. My apologies. Next time we will have a longer one. Thank you so much, Doc, for your time. We truly appreciate that. And thank you to all my colleagues.
Thank you.
Thank you.